I mean, what actually happens when you spend like 30 years building an entire empire with your spouse and then you're just handed a postnuptial agreement over breakfast? Or how do you mentally recover when the exact person who introduced you to your whole professional network just completely decides to ice you out of a major corporate brand deal?
Right. Or to put it even more simply, I mean, why is it that the absolute most life-altering, relationship-ending, fundamentally catastrophic decisions in this particular social circle are literally never made in a boardroom, but they somehow always happen over a really good charcuterie board? It is the universal law of reality television. The absolute devastation is always catered.
It is always catered. It is so wild to me. Like, you are wearing this immaculate outfit, you are sitting down to a beautifully curated event, and suddenly your entire social ecosystem is just imploding. But anyway, babes, we hope you've had an amazing day.
It's the weekend, babes. And today on the Snark side, our mission is very clear. We are dissecting the legal gymnastics, the psychological warfare, and honestly, the absolute weaponization of boundaries inside the premiere of this week's episode.
Finally, I mean, this week has felt like an absolute decade, and we have a massive amount of strategy to unpack today.
We really do. But Snark Squad, before we even get into the heavy legal and social warfare of this mess, I have some excellent news. The white peach sangria is back. It is poured. It is sweating perfectly in the glass right now. Just listen to this ice clinking against the glass. That is the literal sound of survival, bestie. And I have to say, it is absolutely elite tonight.
I'm already on my second sip, honestly. The flavor profile is just doing exactly what it needs to do to prepare my central nervous system for the absolute mess we are about to analyze. Right. But I do have a genuine question about this, though. I'm looking at this glass right now, and I just need to know, why is it that peaches instantly make every single drink feel incredibly expensive? I mean, if this was an apple sangria, I'd feel like I was at, I don't know, a children's fall festival. But you throw a white peach in there, and suddenly I feel like I'm negotiating a treaty on a yacht in the Mediterranean. Like, what is the mechanism behind that?
Well, let's unpack the psychology of stone fruit luxury, because it is a very real socioeconomic phenomenon. I mean, apples and grapes are pedestrian. They're durable. We give them to toddlers in little plastic cups because they can survive a nuclear fallout.
Oh my God, they literally can.
Right. But a white peach, it bruises if you look at it wrong. It has a desperately short harvest window. It requires delicate temperature control handling. So when you consume a white peach, your brain subconsciously registers that you are consuming something fleeting, high maintenance and fragile. It's basically the Birkin bag of the produce aisle.
The Birkin bag of the produce aisle. I am obsessed with that framing. It's like conspicuous consumption in beverage form. And honestly, it brings up a much larger debate. Like, is sangria secretly the official drink of summer? Because margaritas get all the PR and all the marketing budgets, but sangria just feels like the quiet luxury of day drinking.
Oh, it's a completely strategic choice. A margarita hits you over the head with tequila immediately. There's no mystery there. But sangria is insidious. It masquerades as a fruit salad. It tricks your brain's hydration receptors into thinking, oh, I'm just consuming some light citrus and berries for my health.
Yes, that is exactly what makes it so dangerous, because you pour one glass and you're like, well, this is mostly fruit. So you logically pour a second one to actually get some liquid volume. And then somehow just mathematically, one glass turns into three without you even noticing the alcohol content.
Oh, God.
And suddenly you are like aggressively texting your ex from 3 years ago to demand an apology for something you dreamed about last night.
Which is exactly why sangria is the superior beverage. It provides both hydration and total plausible deniability.
I mean, I am officially declaring this the drink of the season. The Snark Squad needs to get on the white peach sangria train immediately if they want to survive this weekend.
Well, I am already planning the logistics of the next pitcher, because dealing with today's recap is going to require heavy reinforcements. We're going to need at least 2 more pitchers just to get through the psychological damage of Marie's lunch gathering alone.
Honestly, you're not wrong at all, but Snark Squad, I have to confess, the real star of tonight's prep isn't actually the drinks, it's the food. Because we needed a really solid foundation before diving into this social warfare, so we literally just finished eating Philly cheesesteaks from the little gritty bodega downstairs, and babes, I am emotional. They were fucking amazing.
That is genuinely the only accurate way to describe what we just consumed. It was a structural triumph of a sandwich.
I am still spiraling over the bread. The bread was just perfectly toasted on the outside, like it had that slight resistance when you bite into it, but it was so soft on the inside. And they used a ridiculous, borderline offensive amount of cheese. Like legally questionable amounts of dairy oozing out of the foil wrapper.
The cheese-to-meat ratio completely defied the laws of physics, and I respected it immensely. It provided the exact caloric density required to fuel us for this reality television recap.
Well, okay, we had a debate downstairs while we were eating, and I need the Snark squad to weigh in the comments. Do onions belong on a cheesesteak? Because I have a very strong, very emotional stance on this.
There we go.
No, listen to me. Onions are the soul of the sandwich. If you don't have grilled onions, you are just eating a dry meat log. It's a tragedy.
A dry meat log. Very eloquent, friend. Look,
Yeah.
analytically speaking, I am not arguing against the presence of the onion. I am simply breaking down the culinary architecture for you. You have the heavy dairy fat of the processed cheese and the heavy rendered grease of the shaved ribeye, right? So you require the acidic crunch and the slight sulfurous bite of an allium, in this case the onion, to cut through the lipid barrier. It's not just the soul, as you so poetically put it. It is a structural necessity to prevent total palate fatigue.
See, you make it sound like a chemistry lab experiment, but I just know it tastes like heaven, and honestly, it proves my ultimate theory. Gritty neighborhood spots will always beat fancy, overpriced restaurants. Always. I mean, you go to a five-star place and they give you a deconstructed cheesesteak on a slate board for $45 with like a microgreen garnish.
Right, and you leave hungry.
Exactly. But you go to the bodega, the guy calls you boss, he hands you a foil-wrapped brick of joy for $8, and your entire central nervous system is just reset.
It's because the bodega grill has been seasoned by 20 years of neighborhood secrets, whispered gossip, and sheer survival. You just can't manufacture that kind of complex flavor profile in a sterile, Michelin-starred kitchen. It's seasoned with grit.
It is the ultimate comfort food, which actually got us debating earlier, what is the greatest comfort food of all time? Like, if you are a cast member on this show and your best friend just iced you out of a corporate brand deal and dragged your husband's financial status on national television, what should you be eating to emotionally regulate?
Oh, clearly macaroni and cheese. But specifically, baked macaroni and cheese with the heavily toasted crispy edges. The crispy edge is the physical manifestation of resilience.
Yeah.
It essentially says, I have been burned, I have been through the fire, but I am structurally sound and still delicious.
I love that metaphor so much. For me, it's fries. Just a mountain of perfectly salted, extremely hot French fries. Because when you are in the middle of a social crisis, you need a food you can aggressively stab with a fork while you rage vent.
That makes perfect sense.
Right. Like, you can't aggressively eat soup. You can't angrily consume a risotto. You need a fry to punctuate your sentences.
Honestly, if these women were eating bodega cheesesteaks or baked mac and cheese, instead of picking at tiny salads and sipping water with lemon, I really think half of the arguments in this week's footage wouldn't have happened. Their blood sugar is simply too low to engage in reasonable conflict resolution.
Hangry is the true invisible villain of reality television. Always. But speaking of things we consume to feel better, Snark Squad, we saw this rate my purchase trend going around online and thought it would be a perfect warm-up.
I am bracing myself for this.
Oh, whatever. We each picked some completely unnecessary, chaotic, or oddly specific purchases we made this week, and we're going to passionately defend the psychology behind them.
I mean, I saw the mountain of delivery boxes piling up by your door earlier, and it looked like you were personally funding a small island nation's gross domestic product.
I am stimulating the economy. Okay, I'll go first. Item number 1, I bought a massive, completely oversized woven beach hat. And before you say anything, I do not even have a beach trip planned. I live in a city. But I am defending it as a vital psychological necessity for incognito grocery store runs.
Incognito. Let's evaluate the visual data here, babe.
Yeah.
You bought a hat the circumference of a satellite dish. When you wear it, you look less incognito celebrity trying to blend in, and more eccentric, wealthy widow looking for her fourth husband at an exclusive resort. It actively draws the human eye. It is a beacon. Completely unnecessary.
I completely disagree. It is peak soft girl behavior. I throw that hat on, I put on massive sunglasses, and it creates a physical barrier. Nobody talks to me in the produce aisle. It is a boundary. A woven, floppy, aesthetic boundary.
I suppose if isolation by intimidation is the goal, it functions. So what's your next financial disaster?
Okay, item number 2. I bought 3 different luxury lip oils from the exact same high-end brand.
At the exact same time?
Yes. One is called Cherry Bomb, one is Watermelon Sugar, and one is Peach Please.
Let me formulate a quick hypothesis. Do they all apply completely clear on the lips?
Well, they do look exactly identical once applied. I will concede that point. But the vibe of the application is entirely different. The cherry scent makes me feel bold and confrontational, and the peach makes me feel sweet and approachable. It's an emotional purchase designed to regulate my daily aesthetic.
You paid roughly $90 for clear gloss with artificial fruit scent. That is not peak soft girl, my friend. That is peak financial delusion. I'm rating that an absolute objective failure of resource management. Completely unnecessary.
You just lack vision. Okay, last one for me. Item number 3. I bought a random, highly specific avocado slicing kitchen gadget. It pits the avocado, it slices it into perfect ribbons, and it scoops it out. And yes, I bought it at 1 a.m. during a massive bout of insomnia while doom scrolling on my phone.
What exactly is wrong with the chef's knife? You know, the fundamental tool that has served human civilization for thousands of years.
A knife does not give me perfectly symmetrical, uniform, aesthetically pleasing slices for my avocado toast. When I use this gadget, it gives me the illusion of control. It makes me feel like my life is highly organized and structured, even if I did buy it in the middle of a sleep-deprived spiral.
You know what? Worth it. I'll actually give you that one.
Wait, really?
Yeah, because having watched you attempt to pit an avocado with a massive chef's knife in the past, it is a legitimate hazard to my blood pressure. I consider that gadget an investment in your physical safety and my peace of mind.
Thank you. Justified by safety standards. I love that. All right, expose yourself. What did you buy?
Item number 4 overall. I purchased a ridiculously expensive hand-poured artisanal candle, and the scent profile on the label was explicitly described as old money and regret.
Old money and regret. What does systemic wealth and emotional sorrow even smell like?
It smells incredibly complex, actually. It has notes of leather-bound books that have never been read, aged bourbon, mahogany, and the distinct realization that your trust fund cannot cover the vastness of your emotional emptiness. It is intoxicating.
That is literally the most pretentious, melodramatic thing I have ever heard in my entire life, and I desperately want to borrow it, but I'm going to rate it completely unnecessary because I have been to your apartment. You already have 72 premium candles hoarding your living room space. You are running out of oxygen.
It's an atmospheric necessity for my
Okay.
deep work, but fine. My final item, item number 5. I purchased neon green basketball accessories, specifically a high-grade compression shooting sleeve and a matching moisture-wicking headband.
I am sorry, what? You have not stepped foot on a basketball court in a decade. You get slightly out of breath walking up the 3 flights of stairs to my apartment today. Why on earth do you need a neon shooting sleeve?
I don't require it for athletic purposes. I was watching the playoffs, the algorithm aggressively targeted me, and I felt, momentarily, that if I wore the neon compression sleeve at my desk, I would possess the kinetic energy and elite focus of a professional athlete while sitting on my couch typing emails.
That is unhinged. You're wearing a neon athletic shooting sleeve to send passive-aggressive emails to your coworkers. That is chaotic, evil energy. That is completely, wildly unnecessary, but I have to admit, it is highly entertaining.
I enjoy the compression, honestly. It keeps my typing arm warm and prevents repetitive strain injury.
Yeah.
It's ergonomic.
Snark Squad, please let us know in the comments whose purchases were more ridiculous, because I think wearing a shooting sleeve to type spreadsheet wins the delusion award by a mile.
Yeah.
But listen, the purchases aren't even our biggest logistical dilemma of the weekend, because tomorrow afternoon we have committed to baking a cheesecake completely from scratch, and babes, we are fundamentally torn on the flavor profile.
It's a high-stakes decision. Baking a cheesecake requires a massive investment of time, capital, and emotional labor. We are essentially giving birth to a dairy product. The structural integrity has to be perfect.
Exactly. And I am passionately defending a Biscoff cookie butter cheesecake. It is sweet, it is trendy, it is rich, it has amazing texture, but you are trying to drag us back to the culinary aesthetics of the 1950s.
I am advocating for the classic New York-style cheesecake. Let's look at the mechanism there. Why? Because you can't mess it up. Biscoff is cloying. It's overwhelming to the palate. A classic New York slice with a densely packed graham cracker crust is structurally sound, it's elegant, and most importantly, when we inevitably lose track of time and leave it in the oven 10 minutes too long, a classic style hides the imperfections better. You just cover the cracks with a fruit compote.
I just feel like you have no vision for innovation. We could do strawberry, we could do an Oreo crust.
We are not running a cheesecake franchise from your galley kitchen. Keep it simple.
Mm.
Because the real nightmare here isn't the baking process. It's the fact that we have to brave Costco tomorrow morning to acquire the bulk supplies.
Ugh, I am already dreading the Costco trip. My cortisol levels are spiking, just visualizing the parking lot gridlock.
It's a lawless, post-apocalyptic wasteland where standard traffic rules simply do not apply.
And you know exactly what is going to happen, too. The mission is simple, right? We walk in there specifically for cream cheese. We need 4 blocks. That is the entire objective. But somehow, through the dark magic of warehouse retail, we are going to walk out spending 3 times our mortgage. I'm going to end up buying a kayak, and I don't even live near a body of water.
It's the psychological warfare of big box retail architecture. You will walk out with a kayak, a bulk pack of all-season tires for a vehicle you don't own, and a 72-pound wheel of imported Parmesan. The aggressive fluorescent lighting, combined with the concrete floors, induces this subtle state of panic, tricking your brain into a hoarding response. You feel like the supply chain is collapsing, so you buy a generator.
Why does every single Costco run magically become a full-day, exhausting, transformative event? Like, you go in at 11 a.m. feeling energized, and suddenly it's 4 p.m., you're eating a $1.50 hot dog in your car in total silence, and you feel like you just ran a marathon.
It's the sheer square footage, combined with the erratic pacing dictated by the free sample carts. It literally alters your perception of space and time. But let's be entirely honest with ourselves right now. Despite all these elaborate baking plans and debating the structural merits of Biscoff versus New York style, neither of us is actually built for the chef life.
That is the absolute truth. We are going to end up ordering delivery tomorrow night while staring guiltily at the unused blocks of cream cheese in the fridge. We just have to accept our reality.
Acceptance is the first step.
All right, I need to take a very deep breath and a very large sip of this sangria. Babes, we've got a whole lot of mess to unpack, so let's get into this episode.
Let's descend into the chaos.
Okay, Snark Squad, we are officially analyzing the mess, and I want to start by looking at the lunch that Marie hosted, because it represents an absolute masterclass in how quickly social norms can deteriorate.
It really should be studied in university sociology courses.
It should. It was supposed to be a cute, curated gathering. The aesthetics were there. And literally within minutes, the entire ecosystem completely spirals out of control. Why? Because Lateshia brought her friend Shantae. And the group has collectively, almost officially, labeled Shantae as outside noise.
Let's pause and analyze that terminology for a second. Outside noise. It is such a beautifully passive-aggressive, deeply Southern reality television phrase. From a sociological standpoint, it completely dehumanizes the person sitting right across from you eating the same appetizers. It strips them of their agency and reduces them to an environmental nuisance, like a car alarm going off in the distance.
Exactly. It's so dismissive. And the tension at that table is so thick, it is suffocating. So Tam and Shantae have this massive explosive breakdown in communication. Apparently, there have been these aggressive rumors circulating about Lateshia and Latrice's friendship fracturing, and the group is basically blaming Shantae for importing this toxic chatter into their sacred circle. And I have to say, looking at the social dynamics, I totally understand why Tambra felt entirely justified in her reaction.
Oh, you were taking notes on the finger-pointing technique, weren't you?
I felt the exasperation in my spirit. Tambra completely loses her temper, points her finger directly in Shantae's face, and yells, "I will whoop her." It was raw, unfiltered exhaustion. Because think about it, it is unbelievably stressful when your friend brings the exact one person nobody likes to the real-life group chat. You are trying to maintain a facade, and they bring the wild card.
You can't just forcefully integrate a rogue element into a delicate, highly volatile ecosystem. It's like introducing a shark into a freshwater koi pond and then acting shocked when the koi start panicking. The structural integrity of the group just can't handle it.
Yes, you were sitting there trying to enjoy your cocktail, and your friend walks in with the literal villain of your group text. Of course the social contract is going to snap. Tambra weaponized her physical exit to protect her peace. She loudly threatened violence, which, is messy. But then she instituted a hard physical boundary by walking out the door.
That's a fascinating perspective, though. I wonder if we look at it analytically. The hypocrisy of the group's outside noise label is kind of staggering. They claim Shantae is a non-factor. Tambra literally states, "I refuse to argue with someone I don't even know." But simultaneously, this supposed non-factor is single-handedly causing the most intense emotional reactions and fracturing the entire foundation of the collective.
Oh, that's so true.
How can an individual be entirely irrelevant yet function as the main antagonist dictating the emotional temperature of the room? It's a structural contradiction.
All right, wait, that is actually a really profound point. If she is just outside noise, why are you letting her drown out the entire symphony? Why does she have so much power over your emotional state?
Precisely. They are giving her the power they claim she doesn't possess. But I will sarcastically praise Tambra for her sheer efficiency in conflict resolution. She didn't sit there and fake pleasantries for the sake of the cameras. She didn't engage in the exhausting passive-aggressive side-eye routine. She just announced her intention to commit physical assault, stood up, and evacuated the premises. It saved everyone at least 45 minutes of circular arguing.
It was highly efficient. I will whoop her. Goodbye. And the aftermath of that lunch is incredibly revealing about the current state of their alliances. Because later, we see Selena and Latrice physically checking in on Tambra. And I have to point out that Latrice is playing a very specific, heavy role here. Tambra mentions that when her father was in the hospital, Latrice was the only one in the group who called her every single day to check on her. That is a massive emotional labor burden Latrice is carrying.
It is a heavy burden. But it also highlights the profound desperation of the group's architecture right now. Latrice explicitly says they are trying to get back to sisterhood and elevate themselves out of the hood mentality. They are desperately grasping at these moments of genuine caregiver connection because the collective structure is actively, visibly crumbling around them. They are trying to rebuild a house while the foundation is currently engulfed in flames.
And speaking of foundations being engulfed in flames, we have to transition from Tambra's physical boundaries to a much more devastating type of boundary. Financial ones. Because while the girls are screaming at each other over lunch appetizers, Glen is engaging in some deeply clandestine behavior.
This was, without exaggeration, the most tense, high-stakes game of marital chess I have witnessed on television in years.
Snark Squad, the mess dramatically reveals that Glen is secretly meeting with a divorce lawyer to consult about Lateshia's sudden demand for a postnuptial agreement. He is seeking covert legal counsel behind his wife's back after 30 years of marriage.
And honestly, it was the most competent, sobering legal advice ever captured on camera. That lawyer did not sugarcoat a single thing. She sat him down across that mahogany desk and systematically, clinically dismantled his emotional delusions regarding Mississippi marital property laws.
Break down the mechanism for us, friend, because the legal reality of this was scalding. How does a postnup even work retroactively like that?
Well, let's look at the legal framework. The core structural issue is that Glen has financially backed and funded Lateshia's business ventures for over 3 decades. 30 years of capital investment, sweat equity, and shared resources. Under Mississippi law, which operates on equitable distribution rather than community property, those assets, because they were commingled and built during the marriage, are heavily considered marital property.
Wait, meaning what exactly?
That means if the marriage dissolves, she doesn't just walk away with her businesses. She is legally entitled to negotiate for half of the entire marital estate, half of his 401k, half of the cash value of his life insurance policies, half of the liquid assets.
I was pacing my living room. I was spiraling. Because Lateshia is the one who initiated this. She came to him asking for a postnup after 30 years. 3 decades. After that amount of time, what are we realistically protecting? The matching guest towels, the good silverware. To hand your husband of 30 years a legal document dividing your assets feels like a massive, calculated slap in the face.
It fundamentally alters the trust dynamic. It shifts the marriage from a partnership to a corporate negotiation.
It is a profound low blow. He has supported her financially when she had nothing, and now that her personal brands and events are finally taking off and generating real revenue, she suddenly wants to legally build a firewall around her assets. If my spouse of 30 years slid a postnuptial agreement across the kitchen island over coffee, I would feel physically ill. It's like a hostile corporate takeover of your own marriage.
But this is exactly why I found the lawyer's reality check so compelling. Because Glen is sitting in that leather chair, acting like a wounded, bewildered puppy. He is leading with emotion. He tells the lawyer, oh, it's a catch-22. She wants my money. I'm offended. I don't know what to do. And the lawyer looks him dead in the eye, completely devoid of sentimentality, and says, it is not a catch-22. Do not wait for the ball to drop. The lawyer basically told him to wake up, wipe his tears, and smell the asset division.
The lawyer read him for filth. Very politely, very professionally, but she completely stripped away his denial.
Because in this scenario, Lateshia is playing 4D chess, and Glen is playing checkers in the park. Let me give you my analytical read on the strategy here. I guarantee you Lateshia is already secretly funneling her new business revenue into a separate, shielded account to prepare a comprehensive exit strategy. The lawyer basically hinted at this exact mechanism. She is taking the seed money he provided, building her independent empire and preparing to legally sever his access to the profits. And Glen is being incredibly naive, whining to the street committee and his friends instead of auditing his 401k.
Oh my God, the street committee. When he earnestly said he was consulting the street committee, I almost choked on my drink. But your analysis is terrifyingly plausible. Because logically, if someone asks for a postnup entirely out of nowhere, they already have one foot out the door. You do not ask the flight attendant for a parachute if you aren't already planning on jumping out of the plane.
Exactly. It's a preparatory measure.
Right.
He needs to stop processing this emotionally and start operating strategically. Or he's going to lose half of his retirement fund while he's busy being offended.
It is so incredibly messy. But somehow, an impending divorce and a 401k battle isn't even the messiest business dynamic we have to look at. Which brings us to the corporate warfare between the women.
The absolute, unmitigated audacity of this entire storyline is breathtaking.
I was so genuinely fired up watching this play out. Let's set the stage. Carrie and Latrice decide to team up to host a major influencer networking event. They are branding it the Creator Collective, and it's an official partnership with Black Girl Vitamins to scout for paid brand ambassadors. On paper, it sounds like a fantastic, empowering networking opportunity.
On paper, yes. Until you analyze the glaring, deliberate omission of the market's key player.
Yes, Lateshia. Lateshia is not just a participant in this social circle, she is literally a brand institution in this city. She runs Women Brunch Mississippi, she operates a highly successful hair control line, and she has the local market cornered on networking events. But most importantly, from an interpersonal standpoint, Lateshia is the one who brought Carrie into this friend group to begin with. She introduced Carrie to the sisterhood, gave her access to the network, and Carrie completely iced her out, bypassing her to collaborate with Latrice instead.
It was a cold, highly calculated, ruthless corporate maneuver.
I'm genuinely confused by Carrie's strategy here. From a pure business perspective, why would you actively ice out the one person who has a proven, documented track record of pulling a massive local audience? Isn't social capital and loyalty worth more than a single vitamin sponsorship? If I bring you into the VIP section, you do not start a rival club with my current enemy. That is a fundamental violation of the social contract.
Let's evaluate Carrie's innocence here, because her defense is purely performative. She claims, I'm just doing business, I'm not picking sides. But claiming you aren't picking sides is in itself a masterclass in strategic social climbing. Look at the data. Carrie knows exactly the massive crowd and the demographics that Lateshia pulls for her brunches.
Right, she's seen it firsthand.
So, by purposefully excluding Lateshia and partnering with Latrice, Carrie isn't just doing business. She is making a calculated corporate statement. She is aligning herself with the faction she perceives to have the most upward mobility while simultaneously attempting to kneecap a potential rival event host. It is textbook corporate synergy.
She knew exactly what she was doing. You do not accidentally forget to invite the biggest event host in your phone contacts to co-host an event with you. It's giving pure opportunism.
It's giving corporate shark. And I honestly kind of respect the ruthless efficiency of the hustle, even if it is completely morally bankrupt regarding friendship.
Yeah.
But Marie, thankfully, was not going to let her gaslight the room with this who-me routine.
Marie was absolutely not having it. Marie pulls Carrie aside to confront her, and she aggressively accuses her of picking a side in the Lateshia versus Latrice war. And Marie calls it out for exactly what it is, shady, exclusionary high school behavior dressed up in a business suit.
Marie did not mince words. She pierced right through the corporate PR speak, which perfectly sets up the absolute disaster of the event itself.
Oh my God, the event. Let's talk about the actual execution of the Creator Collective.
Bestie, the secondhand embarrassment I felt watching this event play out could power a small metropolitan city's electrical grid.
Snark squad. I was laughing so hard I had tears in my eyes. Okay, so they host this influencer event. It is billed as a professional, high-stakes audition for a brand ambassadorship. And what do they have these grown, professional, beautifully dressed women doing?
Humiliating themselves for the prospect of free vitamins.
Yes. First, they force them to do these rapid-fire elevator pitches on the spot. Fine, a little standard corporate cringe. We've all been to a bad networking mixer. But then they project a literal word scramble game onto a screen, and the women have to run up and ring a physical desk bell to guess the letters like it's a 1980s game show. And the grand finale, they make these adult women do a choreographed dance challenge to old school nursery rhymes. They were dancing to Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star.
It was an absolute psychological hostage situation. I watched that footage and genuinely questioned my own grip on reality. What is the mechanism here? What does unscrambling letters on a projector screen have to do with demonstrating your ability to sell vitamins to a target demographic?
Nothing.
What is the ROI on a nursery rhyme dance? Did someone check on the influencers? They looked like they were trapped at a very aggressive, highly competitive kindergarten graduation.
Dancing to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star to secure a brand deal, I would have walked right out the door. I would have looked at the desk bell, looked at the projector, and said, keep the vitamins. I am keeping my dignity. My Uber is outside.
The return on investment for that level of public embarrassment is mathematically unjustifiable.
And Marie felt the exact same way, because Marie attends this event, stands in the back, observes this absolute circus of word scrambles and nursery rhymes, and then has the unmitigated audacity to call the event a bunch of fluff directly to Carrie and Latrice's faces at their own sponsored event.
It was a beautiful, breathtaking display of unfiltered hater energy.
I loved the nerve of it so much, showing up to a party, eating their catered food, looking the host up and down and saying, this structurally sucks. That is legendary, unbothered behavior. But of course, it immediately ignites an explosive screaming match. Marie calls Carrie a flip-flopper and a liar. Carrie retaliates by aggressively stating that Marie's behavior is deplorable.
Deplorable is such a fascinating choice of vocabulary. It's a very strong HR-approved insult. Notice how Carrie constantly tries to maintain this facade of the polished, untouchable professional. She acts so deeply shocked and victimized that Marie is causing a scene in her professional space. But Carrie absolutely provoked that reaction.
She totally did.
She played dumb about the Lateshia betrayal. She subjected everyone to a ridiculous, degrading event. And then she weaponized her professionalism when Marie called out the obvious nonsense.
Marie literally points at her and says, you're pissing me off right now. And it was the most relatable sentence spoken in the entire hour. Because Carrie's whole, I simply don't understand why you're elevating your voice, routine would make any rational human being lose their absolute mind.
It is institutional gaslighting wrapped in a tailored corporate blazer.
It really is. Okay, I need another sip of sangria before we transition into our analysis segments, because my heart rate is physically elevated just reliving the tension of that fight.
Pace yourself, babe.
Yeah.
We have heavy, critical debates ahead of us.
All right, Snark Squad, it is time for our first analytical segment, the Southern Shade Award. We are going to evaluate and award the absolute best, most lethal, shady moments of the footage.
Let's define the criteria here. Shade isn't just about volume or being mean. It's about execution. It's about effortless delivery. The winner is the person who can quietly control the power dynamics of a room or completely devastate an opponent's ego with a single, precise action or line.
Exactly. Okay, so we have 3 strong nominees. Nominee 1, Tambra. For the sheer physical boundary of refusing to breathe the same oxygen as Shantae, pointing her finger, loudly threatening her, and just walking out of the lunch before the entrees even arrive.
A strong contender. Physical removal is a very visceral form of power dynamics.
Nominee 2, the divorce lawyer. For quietly, calmly reading Glen to filth, completely dismantling his ego, and clinically explaining that his wife is outsmarting him financially.
Institutional shade. Very rare, highly potent.
And nominee 3, Marie. For standing in the middle of a catered, corporately sponsored event, observing the nursery rhyme dances, and calling the entire production fluff and fake directly to the organizers' faces.
Okay, the floor is open for debate. Defend your winner.
I am passionately, wildly advocating for Marie to take this award, because to deliver the most effortless shade, you have to possess true, unshakable nerve. Anybody can lose their temper, yell, and walk out of a lunch like Tambra did. That's a reactive temper tantrum. But Marie got dressed up. She did a full face of makeup. She drove across town to the venue. She ate their free charcuterie. She watched them humiliate themselves with decibels. And then, with a completely straight face, she looked at the event organizers and essentially called their life's work and their corporate synergy a joke. That is top-tier, unapologetic hater behavior. She weaponized her presence. It is the absolute definition of Southern shade.
Your argument is noted, and I appreciate the passion, but it's fundamentally flawed. Because Marie's shade was loud, it caused a screaming match, it was reactive. True, elite Southern shade is a whisper that feels like a gunshot, which is why the award must unequivocally go to the divorce lawyer.
The lawyer. You are choosing a background character over Marie.
Let's analyze the impact. Marie's shade caused a temporary verbal altercation. The lawyer's shade caused a grown man to reconsider his entire 30-year existence and financial future. The lawyer didn't raise her voice a single decibel. She sat behind a mahogany desk, looked at Glen's naive, emotionally fragile face, and used legally binding terminology to tell him he was a fool.
Oh my God.
It's not a catch-22, do not wait for the ball to drop. Translated from legalese, that means your wife is methodically robbing you blind and you lack the intellectual capacity to see the board. Legally binding shade is the highest, most devastating form of shade on earth. It has compound interest. It has financial consequences.
But you're ignoring the social capital. The lawyer billed him for her time, sure, but Marie risked her actual reputation in a room full of local influencers. Social currency is just as valuable as fiat currency in this specific ecosystem. Marie put her own social standing on the line to deliver that read.
That makes Marie reckless, not shady. The lawyer got paid $400 an hour to insult his intelligence to his face. She monetized her shade. The lawyer is the true strategic winner.
Ugh. I hate that your logic is so structurally sound. The lawyer monetizing your insults is an unbeatable metric. Fine. The lawyer wins the Southern Shade Award. We will mail her a plaque.
She'll bill us for the administrative time it takes to open the package.
True. Okay, moving on to our next analytical segment, soft girl or boss babe. We are going to evaluate the strategic energy of the major players this week. Are they operating with soft girl energy, boss babe energy, or delusional energy? Let's start the evaluation with Lateshia.
I'll let you take the lead on this one because I know you have heavily formulated thoughts.
Oh, my thoughts are crystallized. Lateshia's strategy is giving pure, concentrated, delusional energy.
The highest possible concentration.
Seriously. Let's look at the mechanics of what she attempted. How do you look at your husband of 3 decades, the man whose capital funded your entire life and incubated your early business ventures, hand him a legal postnuptial agreement, and expect him to just smile, sign on the dotted line, and say, "Thanks, honey, great corporate restructuring"? It is profoundly delusional. She really thought she could just unilaterally redefine their financial reality without him consulting a lawyer or having an emotional reaction. She thought she was running the board like a CEO, but she's just running away from the reality of marital property laws.
I agree completely with that assessment. It's the sheer arrogance of thinking you can retroactively protect assets that were built using someone else's infrastructure. It's financial delusion. Okay, evaluate Carrie.
See, I initially want to classify her as delusional because of how embarrassing that desk bell event was, but...
No, look past the event mechanics. Carrie is unequivocally operating with boss babe energy.
Yeah.
But we need to be specific. She is boss babe energy of the chaotic evil alignment.
Chaotic evil, yes, that is exactly the vibe.
Let's look at her outcomes. She secured the bag. She successfully negotiated a brand deal with Black Girl Vitamins. She hosted a heavily attended event. She played the corporate game perfectly by icing out Lateshia, who represents a massive potential rival for event hosting, and aligning with Latrice to consolidate her power base in the city. She did exactly what a ruthless Fortune 500 CEO would do. She smiled, she deflected accountability, and she secured the check. It is highly toxic for interpersonal friendships, but it is a textbook flawless boss babe strategy.
She literally girl bossed her way completely out of her friendship. It is Machiavellian, but you're right, the outcomes fit the category perfectly. Okay, let's evaluate Tambra. I am claiming Tambra's strategy as soft girl energy this round.
Defend that classification, because she literally threatened to inflict physical violence on another woman.
I will defend it. Look at the underlying philosophy. Soft girl energy is fundamentally about protecting your peace, rigidly setting boundaries, and refusing to engage in environments that lower your energetic vibration. Tambra walked into a highly toxic, orchestrated environment, realized her boundary was crossed with the presence of the outside noise, and she physically removed herself. She went home. She didn't stay and participate in the trauma. Going home to your couch to protect your peace is the ultimate soft girl behavior.
I mean, screaming, "I will whoop her at the top of your lungs" before retreating to protect your peace is a rather significant deviation from the traditional soft girl aesthetic, but I will allow the technicality based on the boundary setting aspect.
Thank you. I appreciate the concession. Okay, final evaluation. Marie.
Marie is operating with pure delusional energy.
Wait, what? I completely disagree. Marie was the only voice of reason in the room. She called out the fluff.
Let's evaluate the strategy, not the entertainment value. Marie is completely delusional for thinking she has the power or the social capital to dictate who Carrie partners with in a corporate business venture. Marie marched into a professional networking meeting and attempted to enforce high school cafeteria loyalty rules on corporate sponsorships. You cannot demand blind loyalty over capital in a group of ambitious women who are actively, desperately trying to out-earn each other. It is fundamentally delusional to expect genuine, ride-or-die sisterhood in a collective that operates with the ruthlessness of a shark tank.
I hate that you're right about the environment. She was demanding deep loyalty from a woman who was literally forcing micro-influencers to dance to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star for vitamin money. You cannot expect ethics from someone operating like that. Delusion. Absolute strategic delusion.
We are aligned on the data.
All right, our next segment, shady, snarky, or stupid. I love the mechanics of this game. We are categorizing the messiest, most chaotic actions from the footage. Let's start with moment 1, Glen deciding to keep his lawyer meeting a total secret from Lateshia.
Oh, this classification is easy. Stupid.
Really? You don't think it qualifies as shady?
No, because being shady implies a level of cunning, forethought, and strategy. Glen is just operating from a place of stupid. He should have been openly, legally protecting his assets and monitoring his 401k a decade ago. Keeping it a secret right now, in the exact moment when she is actively trying to legally restructure their marriage with a postnup, just makes him look guilty, reactionary, and weak. He is not playing 4D chess. He is a man hiding his paperwork under the mattress. It's profoundly stupid. He needs to stand in his power, slap his financial statements on the kitchen counter, and initiate a terrifying adult conversation.
That is such a valid point. He's sneaking around calling the street committee like a teenager, trying to hide a bad report card, instead of acting like a man who owns half of a corporate empire. Categorically stupid. Okay, moment 2, the word scramble and the Twinkle Twinkle Dance Challenge at the corporate influencer event. I am practically yelling this into the microphone. Stupid, stupid, stupid,
Yeah.
stupid.
I fully anticipated this emotional spike from you.
I am spiraling over the logistics of this. Imagine getting dressed up in a tailored blazer, doing your makeup, practicing your elevator pitch in the mirror, and arriving at a professional networking event, only to be commanded to ring a desk bell and perform a literal nursery rhyme. It is humiliating. It demeans the entire profession of content creation. It is violently, aggressively stupid event planning.
Okay, I'm going to push back on your analysis here.
Yeah.
Because if we look at the underlying psychology, I actually think the event games were highly shady.
How's a word scramble on a projector shady?
Think about Carrie's underlying motivations and her ultimate goal. She wants to be recognized as the undisputed alpha influencer and event host in Jackson, correct? What better way to establish absolute dominance over the market than to invite all of your potential competitors into one room under the guise of an audition and force them to perform infantile, degrading tasks for your amusement and judgment?
Oh my God.
It is psychological warfare. She made grown women dance to a nursery rhyme while she stood there judging them from a clipboard. She was asserting dominance. She was proving that they would jump through literal hoops for her crumbs. It was profoundly, deeply, brilliantly shady.
You just completely shattered my perspective. She treated them like performing seals at a circus to feed her own ego and establish a hierarchy. Okay, wow. That changes the entire analysis. It's terrifyingly shady. Okay, final one. Moment 3. Marie looking Carrie in the eye and calling her a flip-flopper. What do you think on this one? I think this falls neatly into snarky. It was quick, it was sharp, and honestly, it was a necessary mechanism to cut through the suffocating fake politeness of the room. Carrie was acting so overly professional, deflecting with corporate jargon, and Marie just hit her with a colloquial, undeniable truth. You're a flip-flopper. It's classic snark.
I agree with that assessment. It lacked the heavy institutional weight or financial consequences of true shade, and it wasn't foolish enough to be categorized as stupid. It was just a highly effective, good old-fashioned snarky read, a solid 8 out of 10 on the snark meter.
Exactly. Okay, babes, we have arrived at my absolute favorite part of the analysis, segment 4, weekend manifestations. This is where we look at the data, make wild, confident predictions for the trajectory of next week's footage, and we defend them as absolute, undeniable facts.
The predictive models are fully activated.
Yes. Let's start with the category of surprise alliances. Who is forming a coalition next week?
I am predicting a major tectonic shift in the power dynamics. Lateshia and Carrie are going to secretly negotiate a truce.
What, after Carrie publicly iced her out of the vitamin deal?
Yes. Because if you look at their profiles, they are both highly pragmatic and ruthless when it comes to business. They will quickly realize that Marie is becoming too loud, too unpredictable, and too much of a liability to their respective brands. So Carrie and Lateshia will forge a secret backdoor corporate alliance to overthrow Marie and push her to the absolute fringes of the group's ecosystem.
Yeah.
It will be a treaty signed entirely in the shadows for mutual financial benefit.
That is incredibly diabolical, but based on the data, I absolutely believe it. Okay, for the category of friendship fallouts, my manifestation is that Latrice is going to completely snap. We discussed the mechanism earlier. She is carrying the entire emotional weight of this sisterhood on her back. She's calling Tamara every day. He's hosting the event. She's constantly playing the peacekeeper. Next week, she's going to hit a wall of caregiver burnout, and she's going to completely snap at Selena for absolutely no logical reason. It will just be collateral damage from sheer emotional exhaustion.
I see the logic there. Compassion fatigue is a very real phenomenon, especially in the hypervigilant environment of reality television. What is your prediction for business drama?
Oh, the women brunch versus creator collective war is going to go nuclear. I predict Lateshia is going to orchestrate a messy, unscheduled Instagram live from the front seat of her car, and she is going to subtly, or not so subtly, dismantle Carrie's event. She's going to talk about how her professional brunches elevate women and don't require degrading nursery rhymes.
Oh, the passive-aggressive Instagram live broadcast from the driver's seat of a luxury SUV is a foundational staple of this genre. It is a statistical inevitability. All right, let's look at family chaos.
What is Glen doing with his 401k?
Glen is going full offshore.
Yeah.
I predict next week we see Glen meeting with an even shadier financial accountant, and he is going to attempt to start moving his liquid assets to a shell company in the Cayman Islands. He's going to try and hide the capital. Lateshia is going to find a random wire transfer receipt in his pants pocket while doing laundry, and all legal hell will break loose.
He is going to attempt to launder his own retirement fund to avoid the Postnup. I am screaming. That is so incredibly specific, and I desperately hope it happens. Okay, time for our final category, unhinged predictions. These are the completely wild, statistically improbable theories that we will defend to the death.
You present yours first. Impress me with your delusion.
Shantae is going to show up to the next curated event in a full physical disguise.
A disguise. Are we talking Groucho Marx glasses?
Yes. She has been labeled the outside noise. She is effectively banned from the inner circle's events. But she wants the screen time. I am predicting a large trench coat, oversized dark sunglasses, and a highly questionable synthetic wig. She is going to infiltrate a brunch like a covert operative to force a confrontation.
My friend, this is not a Saturday morning cartoon from the 1990s. The logistics of infiltrating a filmed event in a wig are incredibly flawed.
I am manifesting it. It's reality television. The laws of physics and logic do not apply here. Anything is possible. What is your unhinged prediction?
My prediction is rooted in corporate liability. I predict that the senior executives at Black Girl Vitamins are going to watch the raw footage of this creator collective event. They're going to see local influencers awkwardly dancing to Twinkle Twinkle Little Star while representing their brand, and their legal department is going to issue a massive cease and desist letter and aggressively demand their sponsorship capital back.
Oh my God. A corporate lawsuit over a desk bell.
They are going to scrub the entire partnership from the internet. Carrie is going to have to release a PR statement pretending the event was an unauthorized rogue operation. It will be a brand crisis of epic proportions.
That is so dark, but honestly, if I were the chief marketing officer, it is so completely plausible. I would demand my money back with interest.
I will defend the probability of that corporate fallout until the footage airs.
I love it. Well, Snark Squad, that is all the psychological warfare and financial mess we can possibly unpack for today. But before we sign off, we urgently need you to weigh in on all of our critical debates from today's analysis.
We require peer review on our hypotheses and our life choices.
Seriously. So please drop into the comments and tell us, number one, from a structural standpoint, which cheesecake flavor should we actually bake tomorrow? Save us from this Biscoff versus New York style war.
Vote New York style. Vote for architectural stability and emotional peace.
Number two, out of our Rate My Purchase segment, whose item demonstrated the highest level of delusion? The luxury Fruit Lip oil or the neon basketball typing sleeve? Number three, what is your absolute ultimate comfort food for emotionally regulating when the reality TV drama gets too stressful?
And finally, number four, the most critical evaluation. Who do you think delivered the most effective shade this episode? Was it Tambra's physical exit, the lawyer's institutional reality check, or Marie's direct fluff commentary?
We need to know where your alliances stand.
Snark Squad, thank you as always for listening and for surviving yet another week of absolute, unmitigated social chaos with us. We couldn't analyze the mess without your support.
It's so true. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and share this with your messiest friend because they absolutely need this strategic breakdown in their life.
We will be back next week to verify if Glen successfully transferred his assets to the Cayman Islands and if Shantae successfully acquired a trench coat.
Until then, babes, stay sweet, stay shady, and we'll see you on the Snark side.